exciting to be back in Laramie, Wyoming, where I went to school. What I would like you to do is, I see a lot of signs around, and I understand what you're trying to say. I get it, I can read them. But I would really like you to please put them down on the floor so that the people behind you can see. I think that that's the least we can do to be respectful to our fellow citizens. So if you would do that for me, that would be great. So it's so wonderful to be back here, as I indicated. This is my 74th town hall in the last 3 years. And in Wyoming, I do a town hall in every county in the state every single year. Now, I go to a lot of other meetings and a lot of other opportunities to visit with our businesses and things. But I really like the opportunity to do town halls because it lets me come here, give you an update on what I'm doing back in Washington, D.C., and then I'm going to give you an opportunity to ask me questions. Before we get there, however, I get it that there are people here who dislike me, but there are also people here who want to hear what I have to say. So little respect for our process and for what we are in this country, that I would ask you to leave. I'd also ask one other thing. I've heard several of you say horrible words out there already. There are children present in this room, and I would request that you please show some respect for the office and for your fellow citizens. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about what we've done back in Congress. The first law of the 119th Congress that was signed by President Trump was called the Laken-Riley Act. It is a product of the Judiciary Committee, of which I am a member. And what it does is it mandates detention for illegal aliens arrested for theft, assault of a police officer, and other crimes resulting in death and serious injuries. As many of you probably recognize, this was named after that beautiful young nursing student in Georgia who was so brutally attacked by an illegal alien. On February 25th, I voted in favor of the House budget resolution. Okay, so here's what we're going to do for the people in here who are incapable of controlling yourselves. I'm going to give you 30 seconds to just scream it out of your system. Come on, go ahead, do it. What, you don't want to scream now? You're not capable of screaming now that I've invited you to do it? So the budget resolution that we voted on February 25th, that actually instructs Congress to enact at least $1.5 trillion in mandatory savings. It provides up to $300 billion for border security. It prevents $4.5 trillion in tax hikes, and it extends the debt limit by $4 trillion. It does not make any funding cuts. It does not create any new funding or change policy, and it is a blueprint for our budget reconciliation process. On March 11th, I voted in favor of the Continuing Resolution, or CR, which extends funding for the fiscal year until September 30th. It keeps the lights on for President Trump and DOJ to continue their work. Fiscal year 25 omnibus by freezing spending in an inflationary environment. It also rescinds $30 billion in agency slush funds. It provides $485 million for alien detention and removal, and it provides a great pay raise for our junior enlisted men and women. In terms of the work that I have specifically been beneficiary. I'm on the subcommittees on the administrative state, regulatory reform, and antitrust. And I'm also on the subcommittee on Constitution and Limited Governments. For the House Natural Resources Committee, I am the chair of Water, Wildlife, and Fisheries, and I'm also on the subcommittee on Energy and Mineral Resources, both of which are very important to Wyoming and the industries that we have here. I have also been selected as the RSC's Article 1 Task Force, and our mission is to reclaim Congress's legislative authority in the wake of the overturning of the Chevron decision. Our agenda is to enact reforms scaling the size and power of the administrative agencies and to professionalize the institution of Congress. In the 119th Congress, I have introduced 23 bills, and I've co-sponsored 94 bills. There are 106 bills that have passed the House, and also one bill, the Lincoln-Riley Act, has become law, as I mentioned a moment ago. I also continue to champion legislation that is specific to Wyoming, including my bill to delist the grizzly bear and the federal and terminate Biden's rewrite of the Buffalo and Rock Springs RMPs. In terms of administrative reform, again, I've been advocating for a legislative agenda to accomplish the goals of the Article 1 Task Force. One of the things that I've done is introduce a bill called the Regulatory Cooling Off Period. What that does is it slows the rulemaking process to increase participation and awareness of the citizens so that they can participate. I've also introduced what's called the 7th Amendment Restoration Act. What's happened over the years is that the variety of federal agencies have created what are called administrative law courts or administrative law judges. The SEC is one, the Securities and Exchange Commission is one that uses this tactic quite a bit. And what they do is that if they were to bring an enforcement action against one of the individuals in this room, they try to bring it in front of an ALJ, and oddly enough, they win their cases about 92% of the time in front of ALJs because they're all wearing the same jersey. Whereas what my bill allows is that if an agency brings an enforcement action against you, you can remove it to an Article 3 court as required by the Constitution and request a jury trial. Another thing that I've been working on, and if you've been reading the Cowboy State Daily, I think that what you will have heard about is the work on dealing with the Postal Service and making sure that we are able to retain adequate and reliable postal service right here in Wyoming. So the plan of action was actually to remove all processing and distribution centers from the state of Wyoming, which would have forced all of our mail to be processed out of state. In one instance, we were able to show that a letter being mailed in western Wyoming to eastern Wyoming would have had to go through 4 states. So we're trying to protect our postal service right here in Wyoming, and we've made some real progress in that regard. About 2 weeks ago, the Postal Service announced that they are going to be keeping their processing center in Casper and Cheyenne, and they're going to be investing millions of dollars into both of those facilities. So I'm very excited about what we've been able to accomplish there. Thank you. Thank you. A couple of other things that I've been working on. As you know, the BLM has been working on both the Rock Springs RMP and the Buffalo RMP. Both of those are very destructive to the future of Wyoming in terms of providing access for recreation, oil and gas, mineral development, and those kinds of things. So we have been working to introduce bills so that legislatively we can modify both of those. What I was very pleased about is recently the Secretary of Interior has withdrawn both of those RMPs and will hopefully be making some very important changes to them. In terms of our casework, what I do back in Congress is one thing in terms of the legislative process that we follow, introducing bills, the committee work that I've been involved with, working with other legislators, writing letters, doing oversight of the agencies and that sort of thing. But another very important aspect of what we do is our casework. And that's done primarily right here in Wyoming. So far, since I've been in Congress a little over 2 years, we have opened 3,200 cases. We have resolved 3,032 cases. So I'm very pleased at the number that we've been able to resolve. And so far, we have been able to return 2 individuals in Wyoming, not agencies, not government, but we have been able to return money to constituents, citizens right here in Wyoming, $5,454,559. Those are cases involving the VA, the IRS, the Social Security Administration, ATF, that sort of thing. So I'm very pleased that we have been able to put money back in the pockets of individuals right here, money that was wrongfully being withheld by a variety of federal agencies. So that's a brief summary of some of the work that we've been doing. As I said earlier, I'm sure happy to take some questions. We've got some questions here in the audience. I believe right over here in the blue shirt. Yes.
Oh, you're not a microphone.
Oh, God.
Back in the shadows here.
Mark
I
Armstrong.
served in Congress from the state of Colorado. I'm moving to Wyoming because I have family here, and I'm really looking forward to making Wyoming my new home. But I want to tell the people here, because I served with you for the last 2 years before I retired.
Better pictures on the
You
website.
have an amazing reputation.
Thank you, Doug. Thank you, Doug. Would you please show some respect for your fellow citizens? I mean, really, is this is how you conduct yourselves? That is just so embarrassing. Doug, thank you.
You didn't come here for your campaign.
Thank you, Doug. I don't think that they're going to show the same respect that they should. Other questions? Right over here.
Can we get a microphone?
Microphone! Please.
She'll normally repeat the question. If she can hear it herself, she'll repeat it, but yeah, it's still bad.
We don't need to have her silent at the moment.
So the question was about Social Security, and what she's accusing me of is standing by while it is being dismantled by DOGE. That is absolutely 100% untrue. Absolutely 100% untrue. DOGE is not dismantling Social Security. And even with reconciliation, we are not allowed to touch Social Security. So I would request that you actually watch some accurate TV and read valid news, because that is untrue. In terms of Social Security, President Trump has repeatedly stated that he is not cutting Social Security. It is not in reconciliation. It is not part of the CR. It is not part of the budget resolution. That is untrue. Right over here.
I'd like to thank you very much for showing up. I think it's very 23rd, I have been scared. I have worked in government. In fact, let me take a step back. I was selected by the Department of Defense to do my PhD at Uniformed Services University. I received a Dean Scholarship. After that, I was assigned to developing clothes development. I worked in other countries. I worked in the federal government. I was very concerned. Every single day, we get unsigned emails from supposedly OPM, Doge.
Yeah, you gave me time.
I want to ask you, when you go to work, are you scared? Are you getting those emails? Do you know what Doge is doing?
Yes, I know what Doge is doing, and no, I'm not scared. She asked me if I was scared and if I knew what Doge was doing, and I said no to both. I answered.
Right? Yes, it is. Yeah. Completely.
Yes, the facility screwed you guys on that.
Microphone. Yes. Good.
The microphone comes off.
We're not giving notification if we don't do the questions. If you're paraphrasing.
Oh, she's
You want a microphone?
telling her something.
Microphone!
Yeah, I'd wonder.
I was just asked what was going to happen to Grand Teton and Yellowstone National Parks. And just so that you know, we've already checked with the Department of Interior, which is, those parks are within the DOI. The seasonal, they are already in the process of hiring 5,000 seasonal employees. So they are already, in terms of the number of people who accepted the buyout, if you will, that's a fairly insignificant number. But they already are hiring as many as 5,000 seasonal employees. The National Park Service will be fully staffed for the upcoming season. I don't have any doubt that they'll be able to meet the demand. One other thing to keep in mind, that under previous administrations, the Park Service, U.S. Forest Service, they have billions of dollars in backlog. That was never taken care of by the Biden administration. You want to act as though there's never been any issues with these agencies, and there has been. Yes, sir, right here.
People are back. It seems like
The question was about the continuing resolution, and he's asked about where is the money for all of the individuals that have been fired. It still remains in those agencies. What happens with Congress is we appropriate money for the specific specific agencies. Here's the only thing that DOJ has done, which is it's so bizarre to me how obsessed you are with federal government. But here's the thing. Attack if you don't calm down. I'm sorry. Your hysteria is just really over the top. What DOJ is doing is it's the closest thing to it is the closest thing to zero-based budgeting that we've seen. Why would you be opposed? Why would you be opposed to us looking on a line-by-line basis what every agency is doing? Why would you be opposed to that?
It's a private guy and his 25-year-old mom.
Nobody loves line by line at anything.
Why can't you tell the truth?
Linda Devine has asked that we just professionally and respectfully have a dialogue. I very much appreciate that, Linda. I would like that as well. So, you know, all I can do is request that people show respect for each other so that I have the opportunity to answer questions.
Yeah, she can. She's refusing to.
Yeah. Microphone! Microphone!
I guarantee it would go a lot smoother.
Share the mic, Harriet!
You're not in charge!
Share the mic so we can hear!
Billions to make its bases around the world resilient to climate change. Why isn't the U.S. government helping our communities do the same?
I guess what I'd ask is how much more money would you like us to waste on that? Our military is to protect the homeland and break things. The entire climate change hysteria that has gone on.
Yeah, well, so be quiet if you're back.
This person would like to know how I am going to help protect the rights of trans and non-binary people. I don't even know what that means. projects that are going out west of town. My understanding is that there are two separate projects. One is on federal land and one is on private land. The order that was issued by the president would really only apply to the one that is on federal land, and I believe that the one on the private land is probably moving forward to some extent. I don't know the status of that project, so it's just, I don't know what kind of permitting is being done with that, but I believe the one on the federal land has been stayed at least for a period of time.
That's 2 in a row you don't know anything about.
Do this every day for a living, and you're only 25 years old.
It's such a disservice. She did this on purpose. But she's not much of a town hall. Grab it up.
Thank you.
Representative Hageman. First off, thank you for taking the time and making yourself available to your constituents. Respect. My question concerns the First Amendment to the Constitution. I know where I'm at. Yeah, I'm getting there. My question is this. How do you claim to be upholding the Constitution if you won't stand against the actions of the current administration that bans select news agencies and press briefings, or when the current president declares protests that speak against his interests illegal? When a graduate student from Columbia University held a green card that are protected by the First Amendment are being penalized rather than protected. Speech, assembly, and the right to petition.
You forgot a word. The word is peaceably. The word is peaceably. That's what the First Amendment says. Destruction of property, preventing people from attending classes, attacking particular ethnic groups, calling for violence, calling for the end of Western civilization is not protected by the First Amendment. If you have a green card and you engage in terrorism or support terroristic organizations, you can be deported. That's what the First Amendment says.
Honorable Representative Hageman, thank you very, very much for being here today and doing town halls. I am a registered Republican. I do not agree with a lot of what's going on, but what I wanted to say was thank you for the wonderful words that you said about our honorable and past Senator Al Simpson. He's amazing, and you really said beautiful things about him. One of the things you said was about his bipartisanship. please, I am asking you, please, can you carry that forward for Wyoming?
I am happy to be bipartisan on any bill that is in the best interest of the United States of America and the state of Wyoming.
Thank you, Harriet, for all you're doing. Thank you for your work on the Weaponization of Government Committee, and thank you for educating people on Article 2. I have two questions for you. The first question is, how do we get Doge here in Laramie, Wyoming? How do we get Doge here in Albany County? We have a city manager that makes more than you do. We have a city yard that was supposed to cost $4 million and cost $30 million. Waste, fraud, and abuse. Second, how about election integrity? Election integrity is extremely important. Why did a city councilman able to handle and process ballots? When I turned that complaint in, the county sheriff didn't investigate the criminal.
How about if I focus on your first question, which is about Doge?
Thank you.
And the question is why you can't have Doge right here in your community. That's up to all of you. That's an issue. What it comes down to is accountability. That's all that Doge is doing, and that's all that this effort is about, is accountability with these various agencies. So I guess that my view of government is that government does work for the people. And whether it's the federal government or the state government or the local government, every one of you should be able to ask questions. And that's why I think that Doge is such a brilliant thing, because when you look at what Doge is doing, all it is doing is identifying various programs that none of us ever wanted to fund in the first place. So with that, I think we can go on to the next question.
Which part of Congress put
I have
together
a final
Doge?
report within the public school system. My sister, who's recovering from brain cancer, has an IEP through the school system. I know that cuts to the Department of the Education will affect people like me and my sister. And I ask and implore you, what are you going to do about the youth and the future of our country?
So what my response to that is I understand exactly what you're talking about, Section 404 of the Education Act. And one of the things that I think is very, what did I say, 404? I'm at 504. My sister was a special ed teacher and the IEP coordinator for the junior high right here in Laramie. Did an excellent job over the years. And what I'm advocating for, and what I've advocated for a long, long time, is that our educators right here in Laramie, Cheyenne, Lusk, Torrington, Worland, Jackson, they are phenomenal at educating our students. Our teachers are phenomenal. We have great administrators. I'm an example of what it was, of what an education was like prior to the Federal Department of Education even existing. I have signed on to a bill that would specifically block grant money to the states so that they have the ability to manage their education system. We have a phenomenal superintendent of public instruction. We have people who care about education in this state, and I think that with the block grants, we will actually be able to do a better job and provide more services to our students, whether they have an IEP or not, because we will have better funding, more funding available. Because the Federal Department of Education spends about $280 billion a year, and only approximately 25% of that goes to education. If we bring that money back to the state of Wyoming will be allocating that money to be able to make sure that we can continue to educate our students.
I'll send you the facts.
Hello. Thank you, Ms. Hageman, to come here and answer our questions. Last time when you were here at the Albany County Library, you said you were working on a comprehensive budget for the United States government. And it has been 27 years. I think the last time was 1997 when the government actually passed a comprehensive budget for the year. We are like kicking the can down the road every few months. This is like we have at least $36 trillion in debt. Like, what is the plan? And now that President Trump has the House and the Senate, though it's a split. Do we have not is it not owed to the representatives, to the people, to have a comprehensive budget planning where that can move the country forward?
So thank you for that question. Actually, last year, the House of Representatives passed 7 of 12 budget bills and sent them to the Senate. But the Democrat-controlled Senate refused to take them up. So they tried to do an omnibus spending bill in December, and we refused to do that. That's why we did the continuing resolution. And what the CR does is continuing spending at the same levels as it was a year ago. That isn't any way to govern. I agree with you. That is not what we should be doing about budgeting. That's why the February 25th vote was so important, because both the House and the Senate have now passed budgets. There will be crossover, and we will be working to reconcile those so that we have a budget package that can go forward for the 2026 year. But that's also why we're working on reconciliation. And what budget reconciliation will allow us to do is go in and, I'm hoping, change the trajectory of where we are in this country with $36 trillion in debt and rising. I first started paying a lot of attention on our debt in 2010. In 2010, our debt was $10 trillion. Within 15 years, it is now pushing $40 trillion, meaning it has gone up $25 trillion in 15 years as compared to $10 trillion in the previous 225. So clearly we need to be doing something different with our budgeting, which is what we're doing right now with the budget we passed and with what we'll be doing with budget reconciliation.
Executive order for right now. How are we going to do it permanently?
The question is, how are we going to make DOGE permanent, which is a really good idea. Agency by agency and program by program. Again, this being a zero-based budgeting program, that we can identify those programs that can be presented to Congress. We can then pass legislation specifying which of those programs and which of that money will be cut from the budget. So I know that we're going to be working closely with the White House and with this so that we can actually cut the spending the way that we need to. Thank you.
I worked for the U.S. Department of Agriculture, helping Wyoming family farmers deal with drought until I was fired a month ago in the mass firings, and despite only having the highest marks in my performance review. In a state where so many farmers rely on government programs for drought and disaster relief, Trump's plans to cut these programs and the people who administer them, coupled with the tariffs, will decimate Wyoming farms and rural communities. What are you doing?
Last night who's a sheep rancher down by Bags and how they're being decimated by the New Zealand lamb that is coming into our country. So when you talk about these things, first of all, you're talking in generalities, and I haven't seen it, and I don't think that we will see it. I think that our small businesses, our ranchers, and our farmers are going to be able to actually thrive in an environment where they are not so overregulated by the federal government.
Powers among our three branches of government. Our Constitution gives Congress the power to decide how federal funding is spent. Congress is also given the power to implement tariffs. However, Trump declared a national emergency of fentanyl coming from Canada to circumvent Congress and implement tariffs. Likewise, Trump and DOJ are dismantling agencies and funding without congressional approval. Our judicial branch is another check on power. Yet just yesterday, the Trump administration defied a federal court order and is now calling for the judge to be impeached. Are you comfortable with giving so much of your congressional power to the president, including any future presidents? And will you be voting to impeach judges as Trump demands?
It depends on the facts, for one. And as far as that's the very purpose of the Article 1 task force, yet you had a lot of people in here screaming and booing about that. I think that the legislative branch ought to be taking its power away from the executive branch. What I find so interesting now with this discussion, though, is over the years I have been pointing out that the executive branch has become all-powerful and that we have given way too much power to these executive agencies and the unelected bureaucrats. Yet now we have a situation where you've got a president who is coming in attempting to shrink the size and scope of the executive branch, and you have judges and apparently individuals like here who do not believe that the president even has the authority to do that. So for those of you who are constitutional scholars in here and actually understand the separation of powers, the fact is that that's what I'm trying to do with under my Article 1 task force. But I will also say this: which branch is in charge of foreign policy? Isn't that the executive branch? In terms of, yes, it is. Yes, it is. So you don't get to pick and choose which part you're going to say that you like, that the executive branch gets to do this, or the legislative branch gets to do this, or the judicial branch gets to do this. All three of us are supposed to stay in our lanes. What has happened is that the executive branch, apparently with the support of some of the people in this room, has so expanded its authority beyond what it was ever intended to be by our founders that it's now time that we rein it in. That is what President Trump is doing. That's what I will continue to vote for, and that is why I oppose what the judges have done.
I have an immigration question. I am a U.S. citizen and currently, because of DOJ, the State Department does not recognize my U.S. citizenship, which my parents came to the U.S. inspired by George Bush for a freer life from the communist country of Russia. I fear that the oversight that DOJ has over every federal agency weaves cracks in where U.S. citizens are hurt in the process of getting...
It's not a matter of oversight, it's zero-based budgeting. It's going through the budget. It's going through the budget of each of these agencies and looking where money is being spent. I just can't figure out why that would be something that you would be opposed to. That's so strange. I've answered your questions. We've got other people who have questions too.
He's unelected.
That was his second question.
He's unelected. That's the problem.
Sorry. Congresswoman, the question I want to ask. Congresswoman, the question I want to ask is about the Pilot Butte Act, and mainly is because you're not working with the sovereign tribes like you should be. I don't need another Christy Moon situation in my state. They don't work together.
I've worked very closely with the sovereign tribes. I have a very good relationship with both the Eastern Shoshone and the Northern Red, and I've been working with them for the last 2 years. The Pilot Butte project is a power plant that's going to be scrapped. It is not on the reservation. I respectfully disagree with you. It is not. You're an idiot. So I disagree with you.
White people always disagree what they win. We won.
I have a question. What's your government's plan for the Palestinians? Haven't you had enough blood in your hand?
We're going to support Israel. What happened on October 7th, 2023 was barbaric, never should have happened.
Thank you. So earlier you were saying that you support the U.S. Postal Service, but according to the public record of what you have actually voted on in Congress, you've consistently voted against protection for our Postal Service, H.R. 1473, as well as 1416, 1310, and 1249. So you're right.
Came with receipts. Oh, I thought that was on purpose.
So, the Postal Act is a bill that I introduced. It prohibits the U.S. Postal Service from closing, consolidating, or downgrading a processing and distribution center if such action would leave a state without one. The Inform Act, which I also am a sponsor of, enhances transparency by requiring the U.S. Postal Service to post physical notices in affected post offices when requesting an advisory opinion from the Postal Regulatory Commission, ensuring the public is informed about proposed changes, impacts, timelines, and opportunities for input. The Postal Processing Protection Act, of which I'm also a sponsor, requires the U.S. Postal Service to follow the same rigorous standard and procedures for closing or consolidating, sorting, distribution, or processing facilities as it does for storefront post offices under existing law. I also have sent several letters to the U.S. Postal Service asking I've also sent several letters to the U.S. Postal Service requesting that they not downgrade the service in the state of Wyoming. And I have also met with, and my staff has been meeting with, the staff of the U.S. Postal Service to make sure that we can protect the service here in Wyoming. Thank you.
Representative, I have a question just to follow up on the one the young woman asked earlier about agriculture in this state. I work for a private company in agronomy and seed sales, and I do work with producers on the eastern edge of this state that are wheat growers that are concerned about the retaliatory tariffs from China because that is reducing demand and that is bringing price down. What are you going to do to help bring certainty back to those producers and back to the general public?
I think situation is we don't quite know how that is all going to play out. But what I do believe is in the long run, the United States is going to be in a much stronger position on all of the issues that we are addressing in terms of these tariffs. Again, associated with fentanyl, the invasion on our northern and southern borders. These are the things that I believe that all of our farmers and ranchers in the long run are going to be better off without having the competition, the unfair competition that we have had from other countries up to this point. There are tariffs already imposed against the United States and our products. It is absolutely reasonable for us to try to level the playing field.
I just want to thank you for, my name is Rebecca and I am from Teton County. I just wanted to thank you for exposing what was going on in Teton County with ICE. I have a daughter that's a freshman in high school and they have gang fights every day. We have drugs, crime, DUIs, and I know that President Trump has really toughened up immigration. What can we do about these judges that are overreaching their jurisdiction and trying to turn these blades around? What can we do?
The judicial system right now, this is just going to have to play out. That's all I can say. They're going to have to appeal the decisions, and then I believe that the higher courts absolutely will reverse the lower court decisions. So much of what we're seeing is just simply, I think, political decisions that are being issued. And I appreciate your sentiment in that regard. I believe that it is very important that our states and our local governments work with and cooperate with ICE and other federal agencies. I think it's very